I welcome today the Honorable Judge of Appeal, Sir Anthony Smelly. Were we not here, I think we would burst into an immediate round of applause. He makes his first appearance here today in the jury box instead of on the top bench. I would like to welcome two special guests also in the jury box to my left. I think for the first time, unless my friend Justice Williams corrects me, I think I have Mrs. Samantha, second time? Oh, I thought it was just mine. I have Mrs. Samantha Williams, wife of Mr. Justice Williams, attending today. I extend a special welcome to Mr. Justice St. John Stevens, who all of you who practice the criminal bar will know. St. John Stevens has served, I think he's a circuit court judge in England, and he has served on our Grand Court for many years as an acting judge. He has returned for another acting stint in the criminal division. And before I complete my welcome, I will just say that I am delighted to announce that the learned judge has been appointed to the English Court of Appeal. We really should have applause. Justice St. John Stevens said, and I think it's extremely gracious of him because it's not true, that the appointment to our court made all the difference to the selection process. I thank him for the compliment, and I extend to him our warmest congratulations. Of course, last but not least, I welcome our colleagues in the magistracy, the members of the profession, without whom we could not do our business, all other officers of the court, representatives of the media, and everyone, as I said, who has joined the proceedings by live stream. With those few words of welcome, I must warn you, I did another Google word search like I did last year. The count that tells you how long your speech is. You're in for a treat. I'm going to call upon the learned Attorney General to move the motion for the opening of the court.
I thank you, my lady. And given your observations at the outset, I must apologize for the length of what I'm proposing to say.
Yes.
My lady, could I also just remark or observe, if you will, that I think, as far as I understand correctly, it's the first time I noticed that Mr. Alberger is noticeably absent, is conspicuously absent.
Yes.
And that is very telling. But we wish him well.
Thank you, Mr. Attorney.
My lady Chief Justice, honorable judges of the Grand Court, honorable Judge, Justice of Appeal, honorable acting judge, Mr. St. John Stephen, and former Grand Court Judge, Mr. Andrew Jones Casey, honorable Chief Magistrate, honorable Magistrate, Madam Solicitor General, Director of Public Prosecutions, President of the Justice of Peace Association, President of the Cayman Islands Legal Practitioners Association, President of the Association of Legal Practitioners and Advocates, our Commissioner of Police, Chairman of the Judicial and Legal Services Commission, special guest, distinguished colleagues at the public and private bars, ladies and gentlemen, both present and those following these proceedings online, good day and New Year's greetings. At your invitation, Lady Chief Justice, I rise to move the motion for the opening of the Grand Court for the year 2024 And in doing so, I would crave your indulgence to make some remarks about the upcoming year and also about what can only be described as an exceptional 2023. Prior to doing so, my lady, please permit me though to extend my heartfelt appreciation and welcome to the various members of the government administration present here today. First, a special welcome to Her Excellency, the Governor, at this her first opening of the Grand Court. Since her arrival to the islands in 2023 March, she has been quite diligent in her advocacy for the rule of law and all matters relating to law and order. I would also wish to record our sincere thanks to the former Governor Martin Roper for his support and dedication to the people of Cayman Islands during his tenure. Permit me also to recognize the Honorable Premier, Honorable Deputy Premier, Honorable Acting Deputy Governor, other members of the Cabinet, Ministers, Honorable members of Cabinet, the Honorable Leader of the Opposition, Honorable members of our Parliament, whose presence here, my lady, underscores, among other things, their continuing commitment to the administration of justice. At this juncture, permit me, my lady, to also extend very special congratulations and warm welcome to our new Court of Appeal judges, Sir Anthony Snelly Casey and Mrs. Claire Montgomery QC, two of the finest minds we will ever encounter. The jurisdiction is very fortunate to have them as members of our Court of Appeal. And my lady, I believe I'm correct in noting that Sir Anthony will be the jurisdiction's first resident Court of Appeal judge. And there's another first in there somewhere.
Yes, indeed.
Justice of Appeal Montgomery will be the first female member of our Court of Appeal after 40 years. I also offer special congratulations to our newest Grand Court judges, Madam Justice Carter, who is no stranger to the Grand Court, and Mr. Jalil Asif, KC. With these appointments in place, the complement of judges on the Grand Court is greatly enhanced. Congratulations. Heartfelt congratulations also to our new Chief Magistrate, our Honor, Mrs. Angeline Hernandez. We applaud her designation. We wish her well in her new role. And again, thanks to former Chief Magistrate, Mr. Valdez Follett, for his stellar service. We wish him happy retirement. Permit me, my lady, to also thank the outgoing chairman of the Judicial and Legal Services Commission, Mr. Orman Williams, and Commissioners Sir Anthony Snelly Casey, Mr. Langston Sibley's Casey, and Ms. Bridget Connell. And in the same breath, may I welcome the incoming new chairman, Mr. Julian Nick Freeland, and Commissioner Myrtle Brand Casey. Congratulations also are in order for the new president of the Cayman Islands Legal Practitioners Association, our esteemed colleague, Mr. Richard Barton, and his new executive. With sincere thanks to his predecessor, Mr. Eric Borden, for his contribution during a successful tenure. Mr. Barton's presidency will continue the high quality leadership and excellent working relationship to which we have all become accustomed with Silcom. My lady, it is also customary for us to pay tribute to members of the legal profession who have departed this life since we last met, including Acting Justice Michael Wood, KC, Mr. Richard Rick Finley, Ms. Lizelle Richter, and Mr. William Jones. We offer our condolences to their families and loved ones. My lady, the The year 2023 saw some of the usual activities that we have become accustomed to during each calendar year. And while the presence of the COVID-19 pandemic still lingers, thankfully, the effects have been minimal compared to previous years. It is a matter of public record, my lady, that a significant part of my time in 2023, and by extension that of the government, was taken up with matters relating to the Financial Action Task Force and the Caribbean Financial Action Task Force, and the need to ensure that our jurisdiction is in compliance with the ever-evolving anti-money laundering, counter-terrorism financing standards. I served as chairman of the CFATF for the period November 2022 through to December 2023. My work program was aimed, among other things, at strengthening the AML CFT framework in the region, enhancing cooperation and coordination among our 24 member countries and other stakeholders, and also promoting the effective implementation of the FATF standards. There are some major achievements, my lady, including the adoption of a number of mutual evaluation reports for different countries, and the establishing or introduction of a new funding model for the financial stability of the CFATF. And I would pause to thank Mr. Francis Arana and Ms. Simone Banks from my office for their dedication and support to me during my incumbency as chairman. While a significant portion of the resources of the portfolio of legal affairs was consumed by the ongoing CFATF initiatives, it was more of a textbook team effort, along with the Honorable Deputy Premier and officers from the Ministry of Financial Services, including the General Registry, the Cayman Islands Monetary Authority, the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions, the Customs and Border Control, the Anti-Corruption Commission, the Royal Cayman Islands Police Service, and Cayman Islands Bureau of Financial Investigations, members of the Anti-Money Laundering State Group, as well as members of the private sector. My lady, it was the quintessential partnership in this regard. And I want to especially thank my learned colleague, Mr. Simon Davis, and Mr. Ian Solako from the DPP's office for their outstanding contribution, as well as long as others. But I reserve special thanks to Her Excellency the Governor, the Honorable Premier, Honorable Deputy Premier, Deputy Governor, all members of the Cabinet and our Parliament for their unwavering support, including financial support and the promulgation of legislation throughout the entire FATF process. My thanks also to the past administration for their support. It was this national effort and commitment that enabled the jurisdiction to be removed from the FATF grey list last October, and which will help us in our preparations for the 5th round mutual evaluation. Moving on, my lady, the issue of Russia sanctions remain as demanding as in the previous year and continues to occupy a significant portion of our time. Thanks to the Director of Financial Reporting Authority, Mr. Richard Robert Berry, who himself a well-deserving recipient of the Order of British Empire in the last 2 years' honors. Thanks also to Ms. Kim France, our sanctions coordinator, and others within the Solicitor General's office, the Governor's office, the Ministry of Finance, and for their work in this important area. Thanks generally to all of the public servants and others. And I want to say also another thank you to the FRA staff for their hard work in all other areas. Permit me, lady, to offer congratulations, moving on, to a few of our exemplary government employees and their recent appointments. Starting, my lady, with our new Commissioner of Police, Mr. Kurt Walton, whose appointment is a source of personal pride to us all. We wish him well and pledge our unconditional support to him and the RCIPS. Our thanks are also extended to his predecessor, Mr. Derek Byrne, for his outstanding stewardship of the RCIPS during his tenure. I offer congratulations to our new Director of Prisons, Mr. Daniel Greaves, who comes to the post with a wealth of experience and our support. And finally, congratulations to Mr. Bruce Smith, incoming Director of Customs and Border Control, who also brings with him extensive experience and knowledge in this area. We are confident that he will continue the excellent work of Mr. Charles Clifford, whom we wish happy retirement. My lady, in the case of the Legal Services Council, as you are aware, under your chairmanship, we continue to meet with a view to fully transitioning from the existing construct under the Legal Practitioners Act to that under the new Legal Services Act, which includes a revised disciplinary framework for attorneys. The wish, my lady, is to complete this work, this task rather, very early in this new year. Our Grand Court Rules Committee and the Insolvency Rules Committee continue to meet and keep under review the relevant rules and, as appropriate, make revisions for greater procedural efficiency. Again, our thanks to you, my lady, and Justice Siegel. My lady, reflecting on the number of judgments rendered by the courts in 2023, again, it was a very busy year, with judgments being delivered in a timely fashion. Our thanks go out to you, my lady, and all our hardworking judges and magistrates. Judgments delivered in 2023 covered diverse legal issues, including a distribution methodology to be applied to Cayman funds, the scope of the governor's reserve powers under Section 55 and 81 of the Constitution, the role and powers of SEMA as a regulator for AML matters, the interface between the National Conservation Council and the Central Planning Authority under their respective laws, and the compatibility of the point system under the Immigration Transition Act with the Bill of Rights, as well as many other judgments laid in the field of criminal law and family. As it relates to legislation, my lady, the legislative drafting department of the chambers was kept very busy, churning out over 150 pieces of primary and secondary legislation, covering a range of subjects, including beneficial ownership, measures for the protection of children under the Children Act, adoption, matters of merchant shipping, as well as Proceeds of Crime Act. This year, my lady, we are hoping to reform the Firearms Act to further streamline the powers of the Coast Guards and to deal with issues such as ghost guns. We're also hoping to complete some much needed reforms to the Standard in Public Life Act, as well as the Evidence Act. Thanks to First Legislative Counsel, Ms. Cheryl Neblett, and the hardworking team of drafters. The Law Reform Commission continued their work on some major initiatives, such as the Sexual Harassment Bill. The bill seeks to provide procedures to aid victims, ensure perpetrators are held accountable, and to generally address the societal problems of sexual harassment. In addition, various papers were finalized and are now pending submissions to Cabinet. Again, I want to thank the chair of the commission and the commissioner, Mr. Hector Robbins Gacy, all the commissioners, as well as Director Griffiths and the staff of the commission. The Law Revision Department diligently continued its annual revision exercise while ensuring easy access to legislation in these islands via the legislation website. Thanks to Dr. Camille Stoll-Davy and Ms. Karen Wade, the 2024 revision will be out very shortly. My lady, our article clerk training program also held its own with the continued training of young Caymanian attorneys, and we look forward to the admission of some new attorneys during this year. With respect to legal education, the Truman Bott Law School once again had some excellent results in 2022-2023 academic year. These were recognized during the August 2023 graduation ceremony for students, both full-time and part-time, on the LLB and the LLM degree programs, as well as the professional practice course. The law school recorded a number of first-class honors and various degree programs, as well as distinctions on the PPC. My thanks to Director Mitchell, Davies, and the entire staff at the Truman Bott Law School, as well as to the Legal Advisory Council under your ladyship's chairmanship. Permit me, my ladies, to thank all the staff of the Portfolio of Legal Affairs, ably led by our Solicitor General and Chief Officer, Ms. Reshma Sharma, KC, and our 3 Deputy Solicitors General, Mrs. Claire Allen, Dr. Jevan Alcott, and Mrs. Marlene Brandt, for their dedication, their professionalism, their unwavering support and advice to me and on my behalf. Thanks also to DPP and his dedicated staff for their support throughout the year. So in closing, my lady, I wish for all the judges, the magistrates, court staff, fellow members of the legal profession, members of the Royal Cayman Police Service, and indeed all others in attendance this morning, a happy, peaceful, and productive new year. I would also call upon all stakeholders to continue to be unwavering and united in our support of the judiciary and the rule of law. As Machiavelli said, where the willingness is great, the difficulties cannot be great. I now formally move for the opening of the Grand Court for the year 2024. May it so please you, my lady.
Thank you, Mr. Attorney. The tradition has been to respond to the speeches from the bar. Unhappily, in the interest of time, all I will say is to recognize on behalf of the judiciary the success of your team, so ably led by you, to get the Cayman Islands off the grey list. It is a significant achievement, as you have said, and I won't say that perhaps we should not have been on that list, because I'm not going to enter into politics. But congratulations indeed from us for the work that you have done, and I acknowledge the tribute you paid to other stakeholder agencies, to the executive, to the legislature in getting your team over the line. I would join you in the condolences you have expressed to the families of those who lost loved ones from the bar last year. Significantly for me was the loss of young William Jones, untimely to say the least. I don't think William had even reached 40. If he had, I forget, because I taught him so long ago. 150 pieces of legislation is an impressive legislative agenda to have accomplished, and we congratulate you on that. More from me later on the appointments to the bench. Thank you, Mr. Attorney.
Please, my lady.
Mr. DPP.
My Lady Chief Justice, Honourable Judges of the Grand Court, Honourable Justice of the Court of Appeal and other Justices of Appeal, Honourable Chief Magistrate, Honourable Magistrates, Honourable Attorney General and Madam Solicitor General, Presidents of the Justice of the Peace Association, Cayman Islands Legal Practitioners Association and the Association of Legal Professionals and Advocates, Chairman of the Judicial and Legal Services Commission, Your Excellency the Governor, Honourable Premier, Deputy Premier, and other members of the government here today, distinguished and special guests, distinguished colleagues at the public and private bars, ladies and gentlemen. I second the motion of the Honourable Attorney General for the opening of the Grand Court, and I'm grateful to my Lady Chief Justice for the opportunity to address the court, and in particular to mention highlights of 2023, aspirations of the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions for 2024, projects and plans to be executed, and also to comment on any initiatives to streamline the relationship which the ODPP has with other stakeholders. And I won't use that acronym again. Before I do so, however, may I echo the words and the eloquence of the Attorney General, the Honourable Attorney General. In particular, he has thanked and congratulated a number of people, and I adopt wholeheartedly those comments which he makes. 2023 was another busy year for the office. It received over 2,100 requests for charging decisions to be made. 106 indictments were preferred before the Grand Court. 928 cases were initiated before the summary court, while over 1,000 cases were initiated before the traffic court. Overall, 4,200 or so charges were filed by the office with the court. Notable cases prosecuted successfully by the office included 2 homicide cases, one in which 2 defendants were convicted of the manslaughter of a former prison officer, another where 2 defendants were convicted of their parts in the murder and wounding of 2 victims at a bar a stone's throw from the court. Other notable convictions include those of a former police officer who was charged with perverting the course of public justice, resulting in a sentence of 4 years imprisonment. A defendant charged also with a string of armed robberies and burglaries at the turn of this year, bringing an end to a spate of criminal activity. Most notably, there was a conviction for attempted murder, resulting in a 21-year sentence. In the Cayman Islands Court of Appeal, an appeal against conviction was refused in another case, where the appellant had been charged with attempted murder and possession of a firearm. The appeal turned on the successful use by the prosecution of Section 33 of the Evidence Act, a hearsay application for a witness absent through fear. Since May of 2022, the office team has been guided by its mission and vision statements. These statements now feature on our new website, and our mission and vision statements are founded upon strong core values and a realistic strategic approach. And at the heart of that strategic approach are 4 concepts, namely our people, digital capability, strong relationships, and casework excellence. When considering our people, one example of that success was the nomination and selection of Miss Kim Chin as Cayman Islands Government Employee of the Month for September 2023. The Deputy Governor noted that her commitment and excellence as a legal executive officer have significantly impacted the ODPP. Apologies, I've just used that acronym again. She exemplifies CIG core values of passion, integrity, and professionalism. Her approach to work, especially during challenging periods, sets a benchmark for us all. Another example of that success was the award received by the office for the Most Improved Engagement Survey Index. And although an independent office, employees of the office are still subject to government values and responsibilities. Those values and responsibilities are to some extent reflected by the way in which employees respond to the government's annual engagement survey. The award was achieved with drivers of engagement around employees feeling valued for what they do, employees being treated with respect, and employees receiving the support they need to do their jobs. In the area of digital capability, another part of the office strategic approach, the office has moved forward dramatically over the last 12 months. The website has been transformed. It can now provide much needed information to the public, especially to do with criminal procedure and victim and witness care. It assists with transparency and also provides necessary information for those making requests to the office from overseas. The office has also acquired laptops for all Crown Counsel so that they have access to true work flexibility and efficiencies. Crown Counsel can manage caseloads remotely and will be able to present cases in court digitally. The office case management system has now been expanded such that the office can now go fully digital. Gone will be the days of paper files as the office team begins and then continues to process files digitally. Putting this facility in place has taken time, but will produce obvious efficiencies and economies. Full training for all employees on the use of the new system is to follow. So when turning to strong relationships, the office has continued to forge its links with local stakeholders, and the relationships it has with the main stakeholders, namely the police, Customs and Border Control, the Coast Guard, and the Anti-Corruption Commission, are firm and dynamic. Relationships with other hitherto less busy departments, such as the Department of Environment, grow stronger as more and more of their cases land in the office, necessitating expertise from Crown Counsel in regulatory work. The strong relationship which the office has with the police was recognised in 2023 when the office team was acknowledged for its many years of support in the training and development of police recruit classes. One employee, Dennis Walkington, was singled out for particular praise for his long-standing support to police recruit development and training. And in 2023, the support provided to the police culminated in mock trials being staged in this building, in which the recruit class participated. So the mission, vision, and strategic approaches are new to the office, but certainly appear to be gaining momentum and traction. The office continues to promote its mentorship scheme, team building, and well-being programs. And I pay tribute to my dedicated team, which comprises 4 legal executive officers, my PA and an office assistant, serious crime case manager, paralegal officer, 2 witness care officers, a case progression officer, 12 Crown Counsel, 3 senior Crown Counsel, 2 assistant directors, and Candia James Malcolm, my deputy director, all of who play a crucial role in getting each case into court. I am immensely proud of those Crown Counsel and other members of staff, many of who will be closely involved with any given case. You often have to work way beyond their contractual hours in order to ensure that the prosecution of any case goes smoothly in court, especially so where cases continue to increase in complexity. Turning to our interaction with others in the criminal justice system, the office has welcomed engagement with the former Chief Magistrate, Aldis Foldats, and your ladyship, regular court users meetings at which relevant stakeholders, including our office, can provide feedback in order to further the smooth running of the processes before all courts are very much welcomed. With this in mind, I look forward to working with your ladyship and Chief Magistrate Hernandez in 2024 and beyond. Throughout 2023, Toyin Salako, Assistant Director, was co-president of the ARIN Carib, that's the Asset Recovery Interagency Network. In July, together with the police, the office hosted successfully a conference at the Kimpton Seafire Resort, at which over 90 delegates attended, this being a considerable increase in the number of delegates from 2022. Throughout 2023, members of the office have continued to assist the Honourable Attorney General and the government in responding to evaluation questions posed by the Financial Action Task Force. I will continue to use FATF, the acronym. The office is inextricably linked to the FATF framework. With other representatives of the Cayman delegation, Toyin Salako and I appeared before the FATF Joint Group in Miami, Mexico, and more recently at the Joint Group on-site visit in September. The office contribution has assisted the Cayman Islands being removed from the so-called grey list. The Cayman delegations, as your ladyship has already commented, were led by the Honourable Attorney General, whom the office will continue to support as the Cayman Islands moves into its 5th round of evaluation for FATF purposes. Further, it has been a privilege and a pleasure to support the Honourable Attorney General during the course of his chairmanship of the Caribbean FATF organisation in 2022 and 2023. I also thank Toyin Salako for her involvement with the ARIN Carib and with the FATF process. In addition, during 2023, the office has assisted the Honourable Attorney General with proposals relating to legislation involving, amongst other things, the Criminal Justice Offenders Assisting Investigations and Prosecutions Act, the Firearms Act, the Proceeds of Crime Act, the Evidence Act, and the Merchant Shipping Bill. Reflecting on the speech I gave last year, I set out then the aspirations, projects, and plans for the office in 2023. I am able to say that the bulk of those plans have been fulfilled. So, for 2024, the office has a number of new aspirations, projects, and plans. So when considering our overall vision for the future, the office continues to put its people at the heart of what we do. That involves ensuring the right team culture and ensuring the right work-life balance for those who work tirelessly as they prepare and prosecute cases in court. This approach has started and will continue throughout 2024 and well beyond. The strategic approach of the office also involves driving professional standards upwards. This involves building upon all of the hard work implemented by the senior management team. Regular appraisals and regular monitoring of the work of our Crown Counsel are in place to ensure that cases are prosecuted to a high standard. This aspect of our strategic approach also requires consistent training. and development of our team. I use the word there, consistent. The reconfiguration of our office space will ensure that the office team can benefit from a training, conference and video conferencing suite, enabling the team to host witness care meetings, face-to-face conferences, training sessions for employees, and cross-department, cross-government law enforcement agency personnel being involved as well, and to benefit from state-of-the-art communications facilities. Training the whole office team with a view to going digital will be a challenge, but one which over time will be beneficial in terms of efficiency and economy. And that training should be completed before the end of June. With a digital office, communication with stakeholders should be different and more efficient. This is due to start. The office team will also work with the court as and when it launches its digital evidence platform, and again, while working with the court, will ensure that movement from paper to digital evidence is as seamless as it can be. The office also proposes a fundamental change to the way it recruits its employees, specifically those employees who are legally qualified. The provision of a legal family concept is not new and is not something for which I can take credit. However, on behalf of the office, I undertake to drive this concept forward. It involves root and branch reform, growing the office from the bottom up, nurturing homegrown Caymanian talent and retaining it, rather than just recruiting as and when required. Putting in place a formal training and supervision process for that homegrown talent to start and to continue throughout their career within the office. I know that this undertaking will be worthwhile. Having witnessed the obvious widespread talent on Ireland as I attended a recent inter-school debating tournament, reaching out to Cayman's homegrown talent, excuse me, and offering those involved the opportunity to experience work within the office will be the first step to ensuring that the legal family concept morphs seamlessly into reality. Crown Counsel graduate is a position which we intend to drive forward, and in the next few months, we are hoping to welcome 2 newly qualified article clerks to that role. Elsewhere, the office is in the process of reviewing its internal and external policies and protocols to ensure that they're up to date and fit for purpose. In particular, the provision of a formal costs policy to be adopted by the prosecution in proceedings before the Grand Court and Summary Court is deemed necessary and long overdue. With a careful eye to the future, the office is also looking to recruit 3 new Crown Counsel in crime and 3 Crown Counsel with expertise in financial crime. In accordance with our strategic approach, the office team looks forward to strengthening its relationships with our key criminal justice system partners over the coming year. In particular, I congratulate and look forward to working with our new Commissioner of Police, Kurt Walton. May I also, my lady, thank your court staff who assist daily with the smooth running of the court process for so many cases filed with the court by our office. Finally, I echoed the words of the Honourable Attorney General in wishing a safe, prosperous and productive new year to your ladyship, all judges and magistrates, the court staff, fellow members of the legal profession, and all of those who attend today. May it please your ladyship.
Thank you for that, Mr. DPP, as I use the acronym myself. I don't know where to start. I don't have time. It was a very packed agenda. I'm going to start with thanking you for thanking the court staff and recognizing the work that they do, and for expressing so clearly the vast number of cases that go through the registries of both the summary and grand courts. Our Deputy Clerk, Mrs. Cecile Collins, is often heard to say that the registries are the pillars of the court. And if they are not run efficiently, the courts do not succeed. So thank you for recognizing their work. I salute you in embracing the legal family concept and your commitment to nurturing homegrown talent I was able to observe, although I was looking at you, some nodding on my left. And so your proposal has already met with approval. I consider that perhaps the greatest work you did last year was in identifying a vision and mission around which everybody in your agency could coalesce. A mission of vision with which everyone who works with you is aligned. Without that sort of alignment, no organization can succeed. And I, for one, think that the engagement in the survey is important because it is an indicator of staff engagement. Without staff engagement, no organization can achieve excellence. So I congratulate you on those matters.
Thank
As
you,
for the rest, I simply thank you for a very comprehensive report. And now I invite Mr. Barton of SILPA to address me. And I just use an acronym there as well. They're inevitable. What can I say?
Milady, on the subject of brevity, before I formally embark upon my address, if you and your listening audience happen to find yourself at the end of which in an advanced stage of exhaustion, I take this opportunity not only to apologize in advance, but also to commend you on your extraordinary act of stamina.
Well, I have the bird's eye view, Mr. Barton. And
Milady.
I can tell you that quite a few people are being lost already.
Well, my lady, by the end of this, I intend to achieve two things. The first, to demonstrate that my use of the acronyms is nothing other than a genuine intention to liberate you from your previously diagnosed condition. And secondly, to help her find her way back home. My lady, with those few words, may it please you. My Lady Chief Justice, honorable judges, honorable President of the Court of Appeal.
No, he's not here. And perhaps you can say that protocol has been established.
Indeed, my lady, I will not relinquish profound advice, but one cannot assume because I do know we have virtual audience. Yes. But I know better than to argue with the bench, so I'll press on.
You did just mention time, Mr. Barton. So I am now holding your feet to the fire.
Indeed, my lady. My lady, allow me to open by echoing the Honorable Attorney General's congratulatory remarks on the recent judicial appointment. I also take this opportunity to once again thank former Chief Magistrate Valdez Foldatz for his immeasurable contribution during his tenure and to acknowledge the historic appointment of Sir Anthony Smelly Casey to the Cayman Islands Court of Appeal. My lady, the apparent intellectual arms race that continued to see the bench outpace the bar has not gone unnoticed. It is with profound gratitude and a deep sense of pride that I humbly accept this invitation from my lady to offer my support as president of the Cayman Islands Legal Practitioners Association for the motion to open the Grand Court in 2024. This tradition is used to mark the various achievements by SILPA in the preceding year and to telegraph the way forward as we embark upon new initiatives within the legal fraternity. As the designated supervisory body of firms and sole practitioner, more than 700 attorneys combined, SILPA continues to play its part in upholding the rule of law and the administration of justice in the Cayman Islands. Now in its 6th year, SILPA has been instrumental in many initiatives that range from the enactment of the Legal Service Act, the formation of Cayman Attorney Regulatory Authority, and the Legal Services Council. In 2023, the Cayman Islands was removed from the Financial Action Task Force list of jurisdictions under increased monitoring. And this tremendous success is the result of a collaborative effort between public and private sector participation. In particular, my lady, I pause to acknowledge the Honorable Deputy Premier, the Honorable Attorney General, Mr. DPP, and members of the judiciary and the bar in our collaborative effort and our overall immense contribution to the process. It is anticipated that the jurisdiction will also be removed from the EU AML list in 2024. To address certain recommended actions, SILPA ensured that attorneys conducting relevant financial business in the Cayman Islands are supervised for AML purposes by creating CARA in particular as an independent bifurcated arm. This delisting demonstrates that the Cayman Islands successfully addressed all the recommended actions and completed its participation in the FATF's fourth round mutual evaluation process. SILPA is very proud of the role it has played in this process indeed. As we all know, the FATF will commence its fifth round process in 2025, with evaluation of the jurisdictions expected to begin in 2026. SILPA remains committed to assisting with this process for the benefit of the jurisdiction overall. Further to the enactment of the Legal Services Act and the formation of the Legal Services Council, SILPA continues to support CARA's effort to carry out its AML supervisory function. The LSC, chaired by your leadership, is now operational and poised to oversee regulation of attorneys practicing Cayman law, both within and outside the jurisdiction. SILPA is pleased to assist with this transition, as well as the implementation of a formal code of conduct and disciplinary regime for attorneys in the Cayman Islands. SILPA's dedication to the training and development of students and attorneys is well established. We remain fully committed to this process and look forward to improving upon the great work already done. Our partnerships with Truman Bodden Law School and the Legal Advisory Council have helped to navigate global changes, such as the introduction of the solicitor's qualifying exam in the United Kingdom, and continue to serve the profession well. Similarly, SILPA's relationship with the Cayman Islands Judicial and Legal Education Institute reflects a common desire to provide a centralized platform for legal and judicial education in the Cayman Islands. It is our aim to progress this initiative over the next 2 years, where a wide variety of programs can be made available to students, article clerks, and attorneys throughout the year. This includes advocacy workshops and the current judicial clerkship program. We are also pleased to report the continuation of efforts to create a formal criminal defense bar.
Yes.
Following a meeting with the criminal defense practitioners on 9th November 2023, it was determined that SILPA will, amongst other things, primarily negotiate free access to legal research material, and SILPA will also assist with access to more affordable professional indemnity liability insurance. My lady, these initiatives extend beyond the scope of criminal law to include sole practitioners and smaller firms that practice in other areas of dispute resolution, such as family law. In this regard, discussions with industry stakeholders are well underway in the hopes to finalize these arrangements within the first quarter of 2024. SILPA also renewed its commitment to host its very successful lecture series with an emphasis on advocacy training and development. Arrangements are currently in place to fund a social and networking initiative with a desire to host the first bar and bench event to coincide with the next full sitting of the Cayman Islands Court of Appeal. My lady, it is always unpleasant to report the loss of our fellow colleagues within the legal fraternity. We too acknowledge with deep regret the passing of Master Michael Wood KC, former acting judge of the Grand Court, and Mr. Richard, affectionately known as Rick Finley, former director of legal studies of the then Cayman Islands Law School and former managing partner of Conyers. My lady, we also acknowledge the twin devastating blow of Mr. William Jones, former partner of Ogier, and Ms. Liesl Richter, former partner of Appleby. Ms. Richter was amongst the first to congratulate me on my election to president only a short while before her passing. This extraordinary act, having nominated me and committing her support, speaks to her integrity, her commitment, and her overall character. Mr. Jones, Ms. Richter, and the others that we have named were tremendous assets, not only to the legal community, but to our islands overall. Invariably, particularly the legacy that is jointly shared with Mr. Jones and Ms. Richter will continue to inspire us all for generations to follow. And we will certainly keep their families in our thoughts and prayers. Lady, please permit me to thank my current and fellow council members, Vice President Ms. Kendra Foster, Secretary Ms. Sophia Scott, Treasurer Mr. Justin Hart, Mr. Nick Bullmore, and my immediate predecessor and former president, the very eminent Mr. Eric Bodden. I'm especially grateful to Mr. Bodden for his tutelage over the past 2 years and his extraordinary continued support. My sincere thanks to all members of the various subcommittee, and special thanks to my former council member, Ms. Wanda Ebanks, who since the very inception of SILPA has dedicated so much over the past 6 years with unfailing support to SILPA and all its initiatives. It only remains for me to formally second the Honorable Attorney General's motion to open the Grand Court for the year 2024 and to take this opportunity to wish your ladyship, judges, court staff, and fellow members of the legal profession a very happy, productive, and prosperous new year. Lady, may it please you.
Thank you, Mr. Barton. The judiciary joins the Attorney General in congratulating you on your election as President of SILPA. We also recognize the contributions of your predecessor, Mr. Eric Bodden. I'm still addressing you, Counsel. I think the usual thing is for you to stand.
My apologies, my lady. I had all intentions to leave here with a perfectly delivered speech, but of course we live in the real world, so my profound apologies. I know I'll hear it in another forum later on today.
I could have spared you. So I apologize.
Not at all.
Recognize the contributions of your predecessor, Mr. Eric Bodden, who led the association very ably over the last several years and was instrumental in establishing the new Judicial and Legal Training Institute under the aegis of Justice Kawley. We hope that we can get together soon to talk about what training the bench and the bar might usefully undertake together. This is not a dig at Nick, but there must be something more than insolvency that the judges can do together. Thank you. I thank you on behalf of the families of the members of the legal fraternity who have passed for the very kind words that you have spoken. I know that it will bring some comfort to the families to know the deep affection and regard in which their loved ones were and are held by the members of the bar. So I thank you for that, and the judiciary echoes everything you said. Thank you.
Thank you very much, my lady. Might I be seated?
Yes. I now call upon Mr. McKee.
If it may please my Lady Chief Justice, and protocol having been established, I am privileged to be able to support the motion to open the Grand Court for the year 2024, moved by Mr. Attorney and seconded by Mr. Director and the President of the Cayman Islands Legal Practitioners Association, and to provide these brief remarks as consulting editor of the Cayman Islands Law Reports. I start with a few words about judgments, that is, judges' reasons by which they explain their decisions. The primary audience for their reasons is, naturally, the parties to the proceedings. There is, however, another important audience, the public at large. Absent compelling reasons to the contrary, judgments are made public so that other judges and attorneys may examine and apply the principles that they establish. They are also made public so that they are available for scrutiny by the public at large, whether via the media or Parliament. The public at large is not limited to our own local population. For instance, many judgments delivered in the Financial Services Division are closely followed by onshore investors, managers and others, and their onshore attorneys and advisors, and by the onshore financial media. That is, those judgments represent a continuing advertisement to the world's financial community that disputes involving Cayman Island structures, no matter how complex, may be efficiently and predictably litigated in our courts. Thus, the public availability of judgments is fundamental to due process, access to justice, the doctrine of precedent, the rule of law, open justice, freedom of expression, and maintaining public confidence in the judiciary and the management of the courts. Judgments of our senior courts, providing, as they do, binding or persuasive precedents, and often considering matters of significant general or public importance, are made public in two ways. First, they are published online shortly after they are delivered to the parties. Secondly, some of them are selected for publication in the Cayman Islands Law Reports. Publication of judgments online is important because it makes them immediately available to judges, attorneys, and the public at large. The practical challenge, however, can be for the persons to identify, out of all of those thousands of judgments, those that are of greater significance or relevance to their inquiry. From the hundreds of judgments that our senior courts deliver each year, the Cayman Islands Law Reports select a few dozen for inclusion in our reports. In 2023, our senior courts delivered 259 judgments, broken down as follows. In the Grand Court, in the Financial Services Division, 134. In the Civil Division, including appeals from the Summary Court, 32. In the Criminal Division, including appeals from the Summary Court, 34. And in the Family Division, 12. In the Court of Appeal, there were 25 judgments delivered in the Civil Division and 11 in the Criminal Division. In the Privy Council, including applications for permission to appeal, there were 9 civil judgments and 2 criminal judgments. I've often been asked what criteria the Cayman Islands Law Reports apply when deciding whether or not to report a judgment. There are 4. We seek to report 1, all cases which introduce or appear to introduce a new principle or a new rule. 2, all cases which materially modify an existing principle or rule. 3, all cases which settle or materially tend to settle a question upon which the law is doubtful. And 4, all cases which, for any other reason, are particularly instructive. I note in passing that the English law reports have applied the same criteria since 1863, and many other Commonwealth jurisdictions do the same. May I now turn to the publication of the law reports in 2023. As my lady is aware, COVID substantially delayed the preparation and publication of our law reports between 2020 and 2022. Some progress has been made in 2022 and 2023 to clear the backlog, but it seems it will take more time to return to the publishing schedule that existed prior to 2020. The most recent volume published is the first of the 2 volumes of judgments delivered in 2022, the second volume of which will be published shortly after submission to the printers for printing, binding and dispatch, and uploading on the judicial website. May I now move to thank you and the judges of the Grand Court, the President of the Court of Appeal and the Justices of Appeal, the Chief Magistrate and the magistrates, for your unceasing dedication to administer justice in these islands independently, fairly and efficiently. Much of that involves long hours outside of court, such as preparing for hearings, writing judgments, and ensuring the efficient administration of our courts. I wish to express our thanks to those people based here and overseas who've willingly given up their valuable time in 2023 to to sit as acting judges of the Grand Court and as acting magistrates. In the Grand Court, they comprised Mrs. Marlene Carter, now a full-time judge, of course, Roger Chappell, Martha MacDonald Bishop, Dale Palmer, Philip St. John Stevens, Frank Williams, and the late Michael Wood, KC. In the summary court, they comprised Suzanne Bothwell, Robert Jones, David McGrath, and Adam Roberts. We also wish to express our gratitude to the court administrator, the clerk of the court and her deputies, and all of the administrative, technical, security, and support staff at the courthouse who, behind the scenes, work hard and diligently to assist and serve the public and the attorneys. Before closing, I wish to take the opportunity to make a few remarks about the late Michael Wood, KC. He was called to the bar in 1976 and took silk in 1996 and was appointed a Master of the Bench of Middle Temple in 2021. He had a preeminent practice at the criminal bar in England and regularly appeared as leading counsel in the Grand Court and in our Court of Appeal. Michael began sitting as an acting judge of the Grand Court in 2015. He presided over many criminal trials, as well as assisting with some civil proceedings. It was a pleasure for counsel to appear before him. He balanced the seriousness of criminal proceedings with compassion and occasionally well-judged levity. He was unfailingly courteous, especially to defendants. Michael last sat in the Grand Court at Easter last year, and after a long illness, died on the 13th of September. Many members of the Cayman legal fraternity were able to attend his memorial in England. We are grateful for his service, and he will be sadly missed. It now only remains for me to wish a happy, healthy, and prosperous new year to you and all of our judges, magistrates, and clerks, to the entire administrative staff, and to all members of the profession, and to the people of the Cayman Islands. I have the honor and privilege to support Mr. Attorney's motion this morning.
Thank you, Mr. McKee. And thank you as ever for your usual comprehensive report on not only the work of the law reports, but your report on the number of judgments delivered by this court. I too, look at the website, and I have observed myself a number of judgments that issue from one DDJ almost daily. And I've been asked by the other judges to say to Justice Doyle, stop showing us up. The work of the FSD, prodigious, I have to say. And not only are the number of judgments impressive, but I can promise you that the quality of the judgments are equally so. And I thank you for recording for the persons present the extraordinary work that the Grand Court bench does in delivering judgments. On a personal note, if I may, I would like to say a special thank you to you for your work with me on the Rules Committee. I know you don't address this audience about that work, but I have been grateful to you for your help in assisting me in successfully transitioning to that role as chair of that committee and providing me on my appointment, and indeed the entire committee, with a complete review of what matters had been under consideration at the date of Sir Anthony's retirement, and a review of what matters you thought the Rules Committee should take on next. Without your help, I think that committee might from time to time flounder. So from me to you, a very special thank you. I thank you, Mr. McKee.
I'm grateful, my lady.
I accede to the motion of the opening of the court for 2024. I am almost tempted to say, let us all go and have coffee. Because from my bird's eye view, I notice some of my dear friends struggling to remain awake. I promised myself not to mention any names, but I must, because I must also acknowledge the presence of Mr. Derek Jones. It was remiss of me not to do so. You may not know, but Mr. Jones is one of the taxing masters or taxing officers for the court. And sometimes I think he's the only taxing officer. The amount of work that Mr. Jones produces for the court, he might as well be an employee. And I wanted to express my thanks to him. And I will mention him again later on because he has done other important work for us. Thank you, Mr. Jones. It was remiss of me not to acknowledge a very, very old friend, longtime friend. He's not old, which is Mr. Nick Freeland. And to say how delighted I was to learn of his appointment as the new chairman of the JLSC. Thank you for accepting the appointment. And I look very much forward to working with you. And I can tell you that the work starts on day one. Of course, we acknowledge Ms. Myrtle Brandt's appointment as well. Everybody knows Ms. Brandt. She was a first-class choice to join the JLSC. And thank you. I'm sure, Mr. Attorney, you had something to do with the recommendations for appointment. I almost don't want to give my speech because I'm so leery of wearing you down. Not that the speakers before me have, but just to say. But I must give my report, and I will try to do it as quickly and as efficiently as we deliver justice, if that's fair enough. I begin by noting, as the speakers before me have done, the untimely passing of Justice Michael Wood, KC. He was appointed, as Mr. McKee just said, to the Grand Court in 2015 and made an enormous contribution to the work of the Criminal Division. I don't know if Mr. Dixie is here, but the court would express on this occasion its condolences to Mr. Dixie, who is one of us, who was Mr. Justice Wood's brother-in-law, and also to the wife and young son that he has left behind. I thank Mr. McKee for his tribute to the late judge, which the judiciary and all the staff of the courts wholeheartedly adopt, and to which, as I said, we add our own expression of condolence. Justice Wood was particularly fond of the Cayman Islands. I'm not sure if it was because of the work, which he enjoyed, or whether it was because he met his wife here. Either which way, unless I'm contradicted by Mr. Dixie, I think the latter is the reason that he developed such a fondness for the islands. We continue to hold his wife and his son in our prayers. I have not changed, and I'm sure Sir Anthony would appreciate this. We believe in the principle of stare decisis, precedent. If it's not broken, why change it? And so I continue as the traditional long set of marking transitions. However, I'm not as disciplined as a former Chief Justice. So I don't do all retirements at once and all appointments at once. So you might not hear a name mentioned, and you might think you want to pass me a note to say that I forgot to acknowledge so-and-so, but I have. If I have not, tell me at the end of the speech. I have to have a happier task of welcoming back, as I said earlier, back to the judicial fold, Sir Anthony, who bid us farewell only 14 months ago, having retired as Chief Justice after nearly 25 years at the helm. In her speech at the valedictory ceremony in his honor in January of 2023, Mrs. Warnock Casey spoke Sir Anthony's appointment as a Justice of Appeal of the Cayman Islands into existence, expressing her hope then that she would have the pleasure of appearing before him again in the near future. I think your wishes have been granted. Also appointed as a Judge of Appeal in the recent competition, as the learned attorney mentioned, was Miss Claire Montgomery, a UK Silk. I can tell you that she has been referred to as a star by everyone to whom I have mentioned her appointment. Her background is set out in various press releases, and her resume will soon appear on the website. So I will only say now that she is a very well-respected advocate and jurist, as she sits, I think, in either the Jersey Court, Court of right, and Guernsey. Yes, and so she's a well-experienced jurist, and we are very lucky to have her on our court. We congratulate them both on their appointments, and not only because Sir Anthony is, to adopt a phrase just used by the learned DPP, as near to homegrown as we have, the first Caymanian, as near to homegrown as we have on the Court of Appeal and the first resident Court of Appeal judge. The rest of us are relieved. We will no longer have to hand down the judgments on behalf of the court or give leave as single judges of appeal, because we now have a single judge of appeal on island. The appointments to the Court of Appeal follow on the heels of the retirement, I think, last year, and I apologize for saying I think, but I was unable to confirm it, but I think last year, of Sir Bernard Ricks, who was a former judge of appeal in England, who joined us in 2013, and I think he retired last year, as well as Sir Alan Moses, also a former Lord Justice of Appeal in England, who was appointed to our Court of Appeal in 2015, and he retired last year. And I take this opportunity to express our thanks to Sir Alan and Sir Bernard on behalf of the judiciary and of the Cayman Islands for their distinguished service to the Court of Appeal, and express my personal regret that there was no formal ceremony in the court to mark the occasion. We will see if we can remedy that going forward. I recognize the presence here today of Mr. Valdez Foldats, who served the courts of Cayman as deputy clerk and clerk, and then as magistrate and chief magistrate, who also retired this year after 25 years of exceptional dedication to the work of the courts. A valedictory ceremony was held for him in Court 2, which was his court for many years, on Friday last. The speeches from the well of the court reflected the extent to which Mr. Foldats, you're crying again? If you were at the ceremony, you would know that this is an in-joke. And I think it was reported in one of the newspapers that we shared a box of tissues. The speeches from the well reflected the extent to which Mr. Foldats is beloved and respected by the bar and by the persons over whose cases he has presided for the last 12 years. There was a young man called Brian Yelverton, who successfully completed a drug court program under Mr. Foldat's supervision, who also spoke from the well of the court. And he had nothing but praise for the chief magistrates, former chief magistrates, I beg your pardon, for the then chief magistrate's compassion, his humanity, and his ability to form relationships with the persons he was supervising, because that is what made all the difference. A special guest at the ceremony was the Chief Justice of the Nunavut Court of Canada, which he flew in to pay tribute to his friend of several decades. He says it was a friendship that went so far back that Mr. Foldats had hair. Nunavut is in the Arctic. I don't envy him his chief justiceship in such a remote territory. But apparently he and Valdez have enjoyed the sort of fun that one would have if you like the snow. This ceremony was not live streamed. We're getting there. But it was recorded and is being edited and will soon be uploaded to the website. I think we're editing out the part where the two of us are crying profusely. It's perhaps convenient here, and I don't see her, but to quickly welcome Miss Elizabeth Charles. I'm not seeing any response, so she's probably not in the room. But for the for the purposes of all present, and especially for the media, Ms. Charles will now be in charge of all things media related. So I think all valedictory ceremonies, I see Ms. Catron saying, thank goodness. I think in the future, all ceremonies of that nature will be live streamed, the media fully informed and captured so it can be circulated and placed on our website as we try to engage more, not effectively, but more deeply with the community. They only know us as judges. They should also know us as people. So she's our new Chief Communications and Public Relations Officer and will, among other things, I'm sure Sir Anthony's hair will recede when he hears that, she will be charged with not just revitalizing our website, but giving us a presence on Twitter, now X, Instagram, and Facebook. Returning to the valedictory ceremony, I had intended to announce the appointment then of Her Honor, Ms. Hernandez, as Chief Magistrate, but she graciously demurred, as she would, preferring the spotlight to remain on Mr. Foldatz on the occasion of his special sitting. But I'm very happy to be able to speak about her appointment today and to say how very pleased I am that she has been appointed as successor to Mr. Foldatz. As we say, Ms. Angeline, Ms. Hernandez has enjoyed a successful career at both the public and the private bar. She was Crown Counsel before she became a private practitioner. She was at the ground floor of the establishment of Quinn and Hampson, and she was a managing partner when it was sold to what is now Morant. She thereafter established her own chambers. During all of that time, Ms. Hernandez served her community in a number of ways on boards. The ones that spring to mind, I do have her CV, but not in front of me. She sat as a chairman of the board of Cayman Airways. And I believe she was also the chairman of the board for the Cayman Islands Chamber of Commerce, among others. I think on her CV, which will be on the website, you will see that she has served on many, many boards. But I say this to say, I mention that to say this, that her leadership skills, which is what is required when you're the chief in any administration, is well established. And her leadership skills indeed have been on full display in the courts since she was appointed coroner. As coroner, Her Honor Mrs. Hernandez revitalized the work of the coroner's court. She provided statistics on water-related deaths to the government. She filed reports with various government agencies to prevent the recurrence of similar fatalities. She improved systems. She improved responses. She demonstrated extraordinary capability in developing and training court staff and members of stakeholder agencies, including the police. And she has designed and led workshops to keep all stakeholders abreast of developments in the coronial jurisdiction. I am satisfied that she will bring the same energy and the same spirit of innovation to the magistracy, to which she was appointed full-time in 2018 in her new role as Chief Magistrate. So welcome, Ms. Angeline. I look forward to working with you as we re-energize the magistracy. Not to worry, Mr. Foldatz, I have the figures for your court for the last year, and it might belie any need for re-energizing. We also said farewell to Paul Anglin. Many of you will know Paul. I think he used to be a boxer before he became a police officer, or perhaps at the same time. So he had fame beyond the courts. But Paul Anglin was served in the courts as a marshal for 11 years, joining us from the police service, where he served for 22 years, making him a public servant of some 33 years. I think that deserves some recognition. We wish Paul well in his retirement. I don't think he's here. I think he told me he intended to travel, and I hope he sends us a postcard from time to time. Although we don't usually announce upcoming retirements, I make an exception on this occasion as the date is fast approaching. And that is to note that at the end of this month, we will bid farewell to our chief bailiff, Mr. Richard Harford. Most of you will remember him as Sergeant Harford, who came to the courts after serving with the police for 23 years and has served as a bailiff in our courts for the last 10. So that brings his period of public service up to 33 years. And I think that is also worthy of comment. I'm already 20 minutes in, and I have, according to Google, 4,500 words to go. There are some statistics in my report, the annex. The clerk of court provided me a record of case filings, that's in. It doesn't speak about disposals or any other statistic, but the record of case filings from 2008 to today's date is annexed to the report. You can look at it for yourselves and judge what are the trends in crime or the trends in civil, or what are the trends in family matters. Because as I explained last year, we are all involved in the administration of justice going to be looking at data to anticipate and prepare for trends. We're going to cease being reactive, but instead become future-ready courts. And only data can inform those decisions. So but that data, as important as it is, I can't rehearse all of it here. A few statistics at a glance. The Financial Services Division had an intake of 414 new cases. As you heard from Mr. McKee, the judges of that division produced 134. My friend Doyle, at least 128 of those. I'm going to be roasted after. For those of you who may not know, the Financial Services Division is a specialist division of the court, which deals with financial services proceedings. The cases are often complex matters involving multiple jurisdictions, and for that reason are dealt with by judges with specialist commercial expertise. Currently, that division has 2 resident specialist judges, K. William Doyle, and the division relies very heavily, where's Nick? On, right, in front of me, 2 overseas judges, namely Justice Nick Siegel, who is here with us today, and Justice Raj Parker. They were appointed to sit on a part-time basis to assist in building capacity for the courts. But over time, as their workload increased, it became quite evident that there was simply a lack of capacity in that division that needed to be met with the appointment of another judge. And so I am pleased to say, because I know you think I forgot, that we have found an exceptional candidate in Justice Jalil Asif, who joined us last week. I'm pleased also to say that although he will sit in the FSD, Justice Asif will be a generalist judge and sit in the civil and criminal divisions as well. While a fuller account of his credentials are published on the government's website and will be available on ours, I would just note that Justice Asif has enjoyed a distinguished career at the bar, both in the United Kingdom, where he sat as a recorder, hearing criminal and later civil matters, and a distinguished career here, where he practiced at the commercial bar in the Cayman Islands, I think for the last 11 years or so. His excellence as an advocate was recognized by his appointment as one of His Majesty's Counsel in 2010. More importantly, from my point of view, as I echo again the DPP's call for a family legal team, he is a long-term resident of these islands, and so he has a well-developed understanding of the people that he's called on in this new role to serve. That might sound oxymoronic in the context of an FSD, where most of the people who serve are Chinese companies. But seeing that he would be sitting in the civil and criminal arenas as well, I think that this additional dimension is something that I should focus upon. So I offer our warmest congratulations to Justice Asif on his appointment and say on behalf of all the judges that we look forward to working with him. In the family division, as Mr. Justice Williams to you. Mr. Justice Williams has reported to me that it's another extremely busy year. 355 new files are opened. It is clear to me from the report prepared by my learned brother that the prospect for marriage in the Cayman Islands remains grim. He advises me that 200 certificates of dissolution were granted, up from 251. I did have a gander at a website where I could find out the number of marriages, and they seem to be holding steady at around 670 per annum. So we're not quite half yet. But I will say this, and as an aside, that according to one online aggregator, Cayman had the fifth, Parson, you listening? Cayman had the fifth highest divorce rate in the world. Russia was number 1, and the USA was number 6. But Governor, we can't believe anything we read online. So I'm not raising the alarm yet, but that's just a report from one online aggregator. I think the people have woken up again. The statistics show, however, that a number of family matters remain before the court awaiting resolution, and this has been driven in large part by an unusual number of contested hearings of unusual length. And although my sisters, Richards and Carter, and I must say they're not my sisters, much in the way of Masons, or perhaps that's a bad analogy, we refer to each other as brother and sister. So my sisters, Richards and Carter, and I all assist in the family division. The truth is that Justice Williams is the only permanent member of that court. And it may soon be time to consider adding capacity to that division as well. The number of matters that remain before the court awaiting resolution is concerning not only because it is the mission of the family division to assist people in ending their marriage in the most efficient and fair way possible, but also because we would like to do so with the least amount of conflict. No divorce should be a Pyrrhic victory from which both parties leave hopelessly scathed by the process. The court deplores a scorched earth approach to family litigation that sees the largest part of the marital estate eaten up by legal fees. Okay? If it is not for the sake of the parties, then it should at least be for the sake of their children, who are the ones who suffer the emotional fallout from a hostile and hard-fought divorce. So mediation has become an integral part of our family court procedures. And I want to speak to the mediation today because I think it shows the way forward. It is successful in that court, and it shows a way forward too for us in the civil court. But let me just speak to the mediation in the family court and pay tribute in particular to the mediator, Ms. Leslie Talbot. She has led mediation in the family court for the last 4 years. Leslie has proved an exceptionally well-skilled mediator whose mediated agreements have put many parents on a far better footing for long-term cooperation, both with respect to children and with respect to financial arrangements. She has helped numerous parties resolve what may have at first glance appeared to be irreconcilable disputes. She has an outstanding success rate in assisting parents with reaching acceptable agreements. And my learned brother reports that mediation was able to achieve 104 fully settled cases, and only 11 remain partially settled, and we consider those will be settled before the end of the first quarter. Many of you here, and I'm looking at Mr. McGrath, one of our acting magistrates, many of you here have worked with Leslie, with counsel, in the mediation process and can speak to the value of mediation in court proceedings and speak particularly to Leslie's personal attributes that have contributed, I think, in the greatest part to the success of the program. And I say that because I have to announce that Leslie is retiring this year. And while we know normally, as I said, note retirements at the opening ceremony after they have taken place, she has been so exceptional, and her contribution, my brother says, to the family vision so extraordinary that I feel compelled to take the opportunity today to recognize her, even if I have to do it again next year after she has retired. The work she has done and the contribution she has made to the courts and to the families that she has helped through what is, if you've been divorced, a difficult period of transition has been exceptional, and we want to say thank you and that she will be missed. I then take the opportunity now, riding on that, to welcome Ms. Chanda Glidden, who will be succeeding Leslie as a family mediator. And we are confident she will not only build on Leslie's legacy, no pressure, Chanda, but develop her own, as she too is a highly skilled mediator who has already been working with Leslie for some time. The Civil Division, under the supervision of Justice Carter, continues to perform very well. There were 410 general civil filings, general meaning ordinary contractual and other disputes. And then there were 239 filings in probate. I can see I'm going to lose people again because discussing the Civil Division and probate is never exciting. We don't capture, and this was something I was speaking about last year when I spoke about introducing my Code of Excellence project. We don't capture sufficient data that actually reflects the work done. When Mr. McKee says 12 decisions have been, or judgments have issued from that division, it belies the amount of real work that is done on a daily basis. But we need to find some way to properly capture the work that the judges in these divisions do and use that data to inform, as I said, our own decision making as to what resources are allocated to what division of the court at what time throughout the year. So I see Ms. Gloria nodding because she knows that I am committed to performance-based budgets, which are based on strategic plans, which are based on collecting data to inform the ongoing strategic planning and execution of the plan. In the criminal division, I'm so glad to get here because there's something that needs to be said about the criminal division, and I have, that they say about the judiciary. We have extraordinary power, but we neither control the purse, nor do we have the power to imprison the very people that we hand down sentence on. So we have power, but not the sort of power that I think the public imagines. So since the power of the purse is here today, sitting on my left, I'm just going to mention a few matters in the criminal division and then segue, because I am losing time, to something that we must discuss very urgently. In the criminal division, we had 104 new indictments. The DPP said 106, but 2 were actually transmittals for sentence to the High Court. So just dealing with it as 104 new cases for trial, we had 104 new indictments being presented to the Grand Court. Happily, with the assistance of Justice Carter, you see, I bet you thought I'd forgotten to welcome her. Happily, with the assistance of Justice Carter, who was finally appointed in October last year to fill the vacancy left by my elevation to Chief Justice in 2022, we were able, the criminal division was able to dispose of 119 cases. Now that's a case clearance rate of 114%. Those of you who were here last year might recall what that means. I don't have a lot of time, but I think it's important to explain it. The courts must aim for a case clearance rate of 100%. If 100% of the cases that come in don't go out, you have a backlog. So if your clearance rate is 70%, 30 cases go forward. If it remains at 30%, 60 cases go forward to the next year. If it remains at 70%, 90 cases until you have a backlog which is unmanageable. Something that kind of happened to Colin with publishing the reports after COVID, right? So court clearance rates are an important measure of court performance. So can I just say 119, 109, 100, a rate of 140% is exceptional. It means that all new work can be effectively managed by the court and that inroads are being made on cases which have been brought forward. To get rid of the backlog entirely, we may have to raise the case clearance rate to 125%, maybe 150%. But as I say, data will drive that decision. The data has driven the decision this far. I meant to mention it later, but I'll tell you now that one of our strategic priorities based on the data that we do have was that we needed not just an extra judge to assist in the financial services division, but we need another criminal judge. With the best will in the world, and although the figures would belie what I'm saying, 106 indictments with 2 judges is impossible. So we would still be having to rely on acting judges flying into the jurisdiction to sit for the entire 12 months. Now, when you have acting judges sitting with such regularity, what you are actually seeing is a lack of capacity. Acting should be just that. A judge can't hear a particular case, has to recuse, a judge acts. Judges are on vacation, a judge acts. When you have an acting judge, or 12 of them, sitting throughout the year, it speaks to a lack of capacity. And the only way that my friend, where is she, Madam Justice Richards, has been able to run this court with such efficiency has been with the assistance of acting judges. But she will tell you that from time to time, they're not available. And so I think it is right to expand the capacity of the local bench by appointing an extra and a new resident judge to the Grand Court. So that is one of our strategic priorities. I'm happy to tell you that we already have the money. And I take the moment to thank the government and the cabinet, as ever, for living up to their commitment, which is enshrined in the Constitution to provide financial support to the judiciary. Not to worry, we will always have acting judges because, as I said, in a small jurisdiction, judges will need to recuse, judges will need to go on vacation, and there's a later announcement I will make, which is another area which we may need to call upon acting judges. But let me return to what I wanted to tell you about the criminal division. Let me finish with Ms. Marlene. I wanted to say of Justice Carter that I want to acknowledge the contribution she has made to the administration of justice for at least 5 years before her appointment, and she can correct me. I used to come home from Turks and Caicos and find her sitting in court 5 chambers. And I recall that she sat not for 6 weeks, not even for 12, but sometimes for upwards of 40 weeks in a year as an acting judge. She sat in crime, she sat in civil, she sat in family, because she was resident, she was local. Whenever Miss Yasmin couldn't find a judge, she would call Miss Marlene, Justice Carter, I see you. Can you come and help? And Justice Carter would. And she was appointed then to act in a post left vacant by me. And as I said, she was then left acting for yet another year. And I cannot imagine the uncertainty of being an acting judge when you're also a resident judge and a Caymanian judge. And so I say how pleased I am that she has been finally appointed a full member of the Grand Court bench. And she has been given full membership of this court after so many years of contribution as an acting judge. She is a valued colleague. And I speak on behalf of all the judges when I say how pleased we are that she is now joined us as a full member of the court. I want to speak a little bit. I'm going to skip the summary court. I'm coming back to you, Miss Angeline. But before I lose everybody, I have to speak about something which is very important. I would like to stay with my program and tell you, like Mr. DPP did, all the things I set out to do last year, which I've achieved. I may not be able to do so, but it will be on the website. This is the sixth strategic priority in my speech, but I'm jumping to it because of time. And it's one of the most important strategic priorities. And I think to the disappointment of the leaders of government who might have thought, new chief, new speech. This is the part of the speech where I say to you, we need a new courthouse. So anybody who thought new chief, new speech, we need a new courthouse. Now I have acknowledged the contributions, the commitment of government to provisioning the judiciary appropriately under Section 107 of the Constitution. And I want to say that we are grateful for the addition of the law courts building at Cardinal Avenue. If anybody calls it Scotia Bank, they're going to have to deal with me. The addition of the law courts building at Cardinal Avenue to the court campus, as I call it, because it brings the number of courthouses to 3. Thank you. It is still not enough to meet our needs. I will not bore you with the technical details that make retrofitting an old bank into a contemporary court. It's not just expensive. It is that the structural design of the building makes it almost impossible. In addition, through your generous support, the administrative support that this court has we have an entire finance department, we have an entire IT department, we have a facilities manager and a team, we have an entire team of auxiliary officers. We have a very broad level of support, administrative support, and they are part of the court campus because the judiciary is independent from the state. So they can't go and work in GAB. So accommodations, government administrative building, did I just use an acronym? I can't send them to GAB. They must remain on the court campus to preserve the independence of the judiciary, to ensure that that information does not leak out of the courts and judiciary to people who shouldn't have it. Not that you shouldn't have it, but there's an important distance to be kept. So that means having to provide administrative space. So we are competing in the one building for adequate space for IT specialists, a finance team which numbers 10 or 12, HR, and courts. So even if we didn't have the structural difficulties we do have because it's a bank. Think of a teller's hall. There's a big space in the middle, and then all the offices around, because you're going to the wide hall. So what we had to do was we built a court in the center of the building. So we instead of having 10,000 square feet, I think we're able to achieve maybe 600. It is a beautiful court, but it has no gallery. Court 8 or 9, one of them only has 1 row for counsel. Neither court is a suitable custody court. That's why I'm in the criminal division, coming back to that. And so it's not new chief, new speech. It's new chief, same speech. Now I've heard, and there's a stricture on judges as to what they can say, lest we trespass on the domain of the legislature and the executive. Just like they don't talk about us, we don't talk about them. Huh? But I have to note that there was an ambitious capital projects planned, expounded, which did not include a single dollar for the modernization of the judiciary through the provision of a modern, technologically enabled court. I'm going to tell you two things why we should have this. We say we're a premier financial service jurisdiction, and we are, and we are. But I should take you on a tour of the premises so you can see where the $2,000 allow lawyers attend our courts with their $15 billion clients. And it is only because we have such excellence on the bench that the meanness of our facilities hasn't played against us. If you were to see the courts of the DIFC, that's another acronym, the Dubai International Financial Center. If you were to see the courts of Singapore, these are our competitors. You would have to come back home and say, for the FSD, we should at least have courts that are modern, technology enabled. My brother Nick, that's Mr. Justice Siegel to you. My brother Nick is sitting in an FSD matter. He has taken the largest courtroom because he has on any day between 40 and 50 lawyers. All the equipment, like in Ahab, I believe, and the former Chief Justice can tell me if I'm wrong, like in Ahab, all the equipment, apart from the screens on the wall and a few microphones, have been provided by the bar. We need to have proper courts, at least for the FSC. That's not fair. That's not fair to my sister. I'm going to tell you why. The modern criminal court must also be technologically enabled. I've completely lost my speech. I wish I had something to demonstrate what the jury goes through. This is a jury box. In a modern criminal court, jurors are balancing 2 and 3 bundles on their laps. I don't have a bundle to show you. Those of you who have never practiced law, those of you who have can share the information. But can you imagine the jurors sitting in the witness box, balancing bundles on their legs, trying to follow a complex fraud trial, or worse, a murder trial where the crown is relying on telephone records. I should make my sister speak. Relying on photographs. Documents admitted halfway can be scanned into the record. A witness can sit at the screen and with a stylus or their finger show on the photograph where they saw the dead body. And all the jurors in real time will see what the witness has pointed out. This is not science fiction. I should ask Mr. Justice St. John Stevens how long case lines has been around. At least a decade. We cannot introduce any more innovation in terms of software and technology because these courts are almost impossible to retrofit. Where would I put a monitor for these jurors? Imagine these are jurors. The jurors love to take notes. Let me tell you something about Cayman jurors. They take notes of everything. In fact, the last case I did, Whenever I misstated the evidence, they corrected me. If I call a witness by the wrong name, they provided the right one. I was more tired than them at the end of the 12 weeks. They need a tabletop. I'm going to tell you they were still going to have bundles. I know Mrs. Justice Stevens will say no, they won't. But I'm telling you that we have to prepare for the fact that even if we had screens, they might need a bundle. They might have a bundle. I cannot retrofit this jury box. I need a new courtroom. I cannot put this in Cardinal Avenue. We have tried. I'm happy to take you on a tour. We had a meeting. I'm really off script now. We had a meeting of the bench and bar, criminal court users. And I got a wish list from the members of the bar present and gave wish lists from the bench to the bar as well. I think Mr. Tunner was action to do something, and various Mr. Barton was action to do other things. But one of the things the bar challenged me to do was to provide witness care rooms. Witness care rooms are essential in a modern judiciary. Let me see if I can find an explanation for a witness care room. It is where you keep vulnerable witnesses until they're ready to give evidence. The Crown also asked for witness care rooms, although one might not have thought that the Crown's witnesses were, not the Crown, the defense asked for witness care rooms as well. You might have thought the defense witnesses were vulnerable, but there you have it. I remember the old days. I came here in 1998. We used to watch the victim and aggressor face off each other in the public foyer. Fathers want to fight for their daughter's honor in the public foyer. People coming into court, having a dispute and catching fight in the foyer. This is 2023. We need to provide appropriate facilities for witnesses. Now, having been told by the criminal bar what they needed, the court leadership and I did a recce, that's Australian for reconnaissance. So we did a recce of the courts. And you know what the first thing we discovered? Was that the jury room does not hold 12 people at a table. Let me explain the significance of that. Murder trials are tried by 12 people. Complex fraud trials are also tried by 12 jurors. They deliberate together in the jury room. They have coffee, they drink, they eat. The jury room can only accommodate 8 persons at a round table. I know, I share your surprise, Mr. Barton, because I've worked here from 1998 and I never knew that myself either. Not until we had that criminal users meeting. The outside of the jury room is a slate wall, like the one behind you. It's not an easy fix to turn a room for 8 into a room for 12. But we are working on it, and we're committed. They're also dilapidated. These are persons who give freely of their time to the court. Yeah, whatever stipend they get, trust me, they're volunteers. To achieve witness care rooms, I have to displace the court reporters. Where are they going to go? The court reporters report in these courts. They can't be too far away. Should I hire them premises down the road? Should I send them across the Cardinal Avenue? How much can this building achieve? My sister was having a great deal of difficulty setting two criminal trials for trial in the same period because she could only list one custody matter in court 1. So she would have to search her list to see if she could find a non-custody matter to put across the street in court 5. That's why Mr. Justice Siegel is not using it for a 12-week FSC trial. So I made an executive decision to boot the summary court out of court 2 and put Justice Richards in charge of courts 1 and 2 for the reason that these 2 courtrooms, this court building, is the only proper custody court in the jurisdiction. And my sister is trying persons charged with category A offenses, murder, rape, arson, armed robbery. And so I displaced the summary court, much to Mr. Folzat's chagrin, so that my sister could do the people's business when it came to trying those very, very important cases. So that displaced the lawyers, because I made it new. The new jury room was the old robing room. It also can't fit 12 people. So the lawyer said, well, what about us? So I had to come the next morning. It was Mr. Jonathan Hughes. What about us? Where am I putting my robes? And I came to court the very next day, and in 5 minutes, we had set up the old library as a robing room. It's very comfortable. I think the lawyers like it. Don't nod at me, because the problem with it is that the lawyers are now in what you might call the sanctum sanctorum of the judges, because anything behind here is really where the judges would like to be their own sterile space. So it's comfortable. We're not taking it from you today because we have nothing else to give you, but you can see how unsuitable it is that we've had to make do. You know, I told my sister she should read my speech before I gave it because I was afraid it might devolve into a rant. She says, no, man, whatever you do, it will be fine. And at this point, I find I'm off my speech altogether. But as I said, it's new chief, old speech. I cannot stress that we need new court facilities, new court facilities. We will continue to make do. I think you know. I think everybody knows the commitment of judges. Judges will sit in a closet if that is what is required to get the job done. I have sat in an airport hangar after Ivan to get the job done. We have sat in a building that had no light after a hurricane to get the job done. We are prepared to sacrifice, but should we be asked to? And what about the people who are not paid to judge, like our jurors? What about the litigants that come here seeking our assistance? Should they be subject to conditions which are not only unpleasant, but in fact unsuitable for the purposes for which they have come to this court? So I make this public plea, new chief, old speech. I make this public plea for consideration to be given to an establishment in the budget for a capital project for a new courthouse. We're not giving up anything. We still need this court. We still have coroner's court, jurors of 7. The jury room is big enough for that. We have judge alone trials, which can be accommodated without a jury room, but we need a custody suite for that. So we're not, this building is iconic. We love sitting here. We're currently working on plans to retrofit it and renovate it to the best that we can so that we can preserve it. But I don't resolve from my call for proper court purposes, court premises, so the court can do its job. I have 5 minutes. Bear with me. Our 2023 strategic priorities, apart from retrofitting, because that was really one of the priorities, was retrofitting and renovating courthouses to try and make them fit for purpose. That was one strategic priority. But what we realized at the end of the year is that retrofitting and renovating will not get the job done, will not take us over the finish line. It will take us only so far, no further. Our other strategic priorities were the expansion of our IT infrastructure and the expansion of our courier platform. You know that we can file many things online already. having built or rather increased our storage capacity to support the continuing expansion of the Curia case management system, we can now file Court of Appeal electronically. The expansion of the platform will now permit the migration of criminal matters from GEMS to the new case management system. Fines have been payable online for some time now, but court fees are now payable online, as well as attorney and notary public fees. I'm not accepting any excuses from the attorneys, no certificate, no audience. You can now do it online. The clerk tells me that she generates the certificates online. You can see how impressive our adoption of technology is, but we can't bring in the case management software without the innovations that I told you of. District courts, goodness, if I had $1 for how many times I've been asked about my district courts since I announced them last year, I could take you all to lunch. And the questions have come from the members of the House about when is the Chief Justice established in district courts. So let me tell you exactly what happened. The court administrator, Miss Hildy, and I drove around West Bay with Josen, who is a West Bayer. Sorry, that's Chief Marshal Josen Ebanks to you. And we went in search of a suitable location to hold court in the district of West Bay. We found none. There was not one single municipal building to be found, not a town hall in which we could sit. The town hall had become a library. And the only other public space was within the West Bay Primary School. I don't think the parents would have been happy with my clients attending there for court. So we dispatched the clerk. Where's Miss Shona? Yes, thank you. We dispatched the clerk to the east. And she went to see what might be available in Bodden Town. She came up with a number of churches, but I, for one, will not hold court in a church hall. She did report that a former church hall had been acquired by government to become a community center. Am I right, Shona? Yes. And that it might prove suitable in the future, but not now. So that's the demise of the district court. And I don't want to ask the government for a budget to rent space, because it is not envisioned that the district court would sit every day. It was imagined in order to relieve the pressure on the Georgetown courts and the difficulty of parking. Remember, having to park at 80 A.L. Thompson and walk to court? It was to take like the return days or the traffic days out of the districts and relieve the pressure on the center of Georgetown. And so it wouldn't be a full-time 5-day-a-week court. My lawyers would quit because they go to different courts over the course of a day, and driving between West Bay and here or here in Boddentown would prove impossible. Anyway, we don't give up yet, because we never do. What did you say, Mr. Baldwin? I think the Machiavellian quote, whatever you want, it's never too great for you to achieve it. I think that's an interpretation of that quote from Machiavelli. Reintroduction of JPs in the summary court. That was another one of our strategic priorities. I'm happy to say we are well on the way. And if you look to my right and against that wall, we have the largest part of the JP cohort. That is a pilot group for sitting in the summary court. We have been seeking to identify the best sort of training to equip them for their roles. They have had a course of familiarization with the courts and court process, first observing proceedings from the gallery and then from the bench. And I'm happy to report none of them observed proceedings from the dock. This is always reassuring. The magistrates have devoted a lot of time mentoring the JPs. I did not pass on to the magistrates all the expressions of gratitude I received, so I do so now publicly. In 2024, justices of the peace sitting in the summary court will become a reality. They will be deployed in the traffic court, which will relieve the magistrates of a significant amount of their current caseload. That we will need additional court space because we are talking about return days of 100 or 120 people. It cannot be accommodated in the courts that we have now, except for Court 5, when the FSC is not sitting. The DPP very kindly offered to help with designing and delivering, in conjunction with the courts, some mock trials and role plays. He looks slightly surprised. If he didn't offer, I'm sure he will now. And training in this regard will continue for the first half of 2024. The last thing I'm going to speak about, even Richard is getting tired, and we have the most comfortable chairs in the room, was the Court Excellence Project. I owe you an update on that. Who knew that strategic planning was such an effort? So just to let people who don't know what it is, who are hearing me for the first time, the International Framework for Court Excellence is a tool. It's a resource for assessing a court's performance against 7 detailed areas of court excellence. It provides clear guidance for courts intending to improve their performance. It provides for continuous evaluation and improvement through the collection of data, measuring performance. So everything is done in terms of rates. If you intend to dispose of 100 or 100% of your cases, the question is asked, how often do you reach that target? We reach it 50% of the time. What do we do to go from 50% of the time to 100% of the time? And you sit together and you figure out what you need. Suppose you had appeals that were delayed. You were waiting 4 years for an appeal. So you were achieving 100% of appeals only 20% of the time. You might discover it was because transcripts were late. If you did that, you might make a decision to move from court reporting to digital recording and external transcription services. If you made that decision, then you could cost it. So when you go to the government, you say, this is our performance target or performance indicator. This is how we plan to get there. And this is what it's going to cost us to produce that outcome. When the government gives you money, they know what they're giving it to you for. And we have outcomes or indicators which are readily measurable. So we can say whether we are achieving our targets or not. So the blueprint for excellence, that is it. And it starts with a survey. And we conducted a survey. We discovered that court leadership had not done a very good job of, to your point, Mr. DPP, sharing the mission and vision of the court with the staff. So there was a lack of information about what we do, why we do it, who we do it for, and how we do it. And so we then followed the questionnaire with focus groups and a 2-day strategic planning session. Those were very lively and informative. And I think we have just engaged a consultant to help us to manage the strategic planning process. And I think I can confidently say that we will have one by June. 5 more minutes and I release you. Google said the speech will take an hour and 45 minutes. I've taken an hour and 10. Last thing, new chief, new rules. How about that? New chief, new rules. One new rule, and I'm hoping that it meets with favor. It's actually not a new, it's a change to Order 64, which we haven't used for so long, half you don't know what it is. It's an order that deals with vacations. We're bringing them back. We're reintroducing terms, Mr. Tunner at least is smiling. We're reintroducing terms, or he's trying to stay awake. We're reintroducing terms. The longest term, which will be the summer term, it will be between 6 and 7 weeks, depending on the year. This is critical for many reasons. The roof of this court needs repair. I can't repair it if courts are sitting. The registries, and you must not think that going electronic or digital cuts back on the work. In fact, sometimes it even increases the workload. The registries are bowing under the pressure of work. They need the courts to stop so that they can regroup. Frankly, the judges are tired, especially the judges who sit in crime all year long. In England, they have done studies and proven that judges who sit in violent crime sometimes develop PTSD. I'm pleased to report we don't have that problem. But there is no reason why we should drive our judges to exhaustion. So it will allow for repairs. It will give the judges time out of the list to write judgments. It will allow the registers to recoup and regroup. And more importantly, it will allow for training of staff and training of judges without disruption to the court business. So I have to, the new order was gazetted, but I am required, as I discovered reading the Grand Court law, to publish the term dates for the year by December. They'll be published before the end of the week, so you'll all know when your summer vacation starts. I'm hoping that the reintroduction of terms is as good news for the lawyers as it has been for the judges. I see 2 lawyers nodding with me. I take that to be the majority. The next bit of news will be for the civil and commercial bar, and I think it will be very welcome. We have revised the fees that are recoverable on taxation upwards. It is set out in Practice Direction 1 of 2024, which was recently gazetted. I again express my thanks to Mr. Derek Jones, who did a survey of fees charged at the bar in Cayman, the lowest, the most junior to the highest. The highest was very high. So like when you're judging a beauty contest, we knocked that one out as being an outlier. And the lowest was very low, so we knocked that one out too as an outlier. And somewhere in the middle of all the figures you provided to us, we have arrived at a new fee or cost schedule for civil and commercial practitioners. Thank you again. I know that means the criminal bar is going to be saying, what about the revision to the legal aid fees? Perhaps next year. Thank you very much for your patience and for giving me your kind attention. I look forward to working with all of you in all our different capacities in 2024. May I invite you now to join us on the foyer for some refreshment, which is long overdue. Many, many thanks.
Silence or silence.